Hey guys and girls, welcome back to Resin Maniacs TV. Once again, I'm your host, Bill Lappe, and I want to tell you today we got a special guest. Gordon Oberman, multi-talented painter, garage kit builder, writer, you name it. Sit back and listen to this interview.
Hello, I'm Gordon Oberman. I've been involved in the model kit hobby, garage kit hobby since 1995. A friend of mine actually introduced me to it. He was a very good painter. It was actually the first time I ever saw anybody do dry brushing or any of that type of technique on a kit, and I was hooked. And my first kit that I purchased was a Billiken Batman, straight from Hawaii. I think that's where they shipped from. My first Wonderfest was, I think, 1997. I think it was that was when Harryhausen first was here. The same friend of mine that introduced me to the hobby, he and I came down here. We drove down on Saturday and left Saturday night. So that was our introduction to Wonderfest. The way I got introduced to AFM, obviously just like everybody else, I started at issue 0, and I've been a fan from the very beginning. Raised my kids on Model Mania videos. That's what actually taught me to start to take progress pictures as I build a kit or I work on a base. I would take the photos just like they did in the magazine to see how I did it, remember how I did it. And then in 2010 I was commissioned by Mike Falsigno to build a 2-figure kit or 2-figure diorama, 2 totally unrelated kits. It was the Maria Smoking and the Dal Keel by the Shiflett brothers. And what I ended up doing is I created a scene that was based on a film noir, as if she were a damsel, or not a damsel in distress, but femme fatale. And Dal Keel was her demonic minion. She would draw in her victim, and Dal Keel would do away with them for her, and the scene depicted that type of thing, but it was set up like in Sam Spade's office, private detective's office. So scratch built the base. Anyway, I won the most amazing figure that year, and I was talking to David and Terry afterwards, and David said, do you have any good photos of it? And I said, oh yeah, I have a lot of good photos. And Terry goes, boy, it's really too bad you didn't keep track of how you did it or progress photos. I said, oh yeah, I have it all. I have it all ready. I said I could write an article on it like right now. So I actually got in the very next issue, which was very lucky. It was writer's choice, so it fit right in because there's no real theme to that other than the writers get to choose the articles that they get to write. So that was my initiation to becoming a writer, and I think I've done 8 articles for them since then. And I just got my first cover just recently, so that was icing on the cake as far as that's concerned.
I just recently got into pastels as a painter. Is there one medium that you prefer over another one? Kind of ink? Some people use ink, some people use paint. Is there anything that you prefer to use?
What I prefer to use, the techniques that I prefer to use when I paint is I airbrush primarily. Lay in all my base coats, do all my shading, and then I follow that up with pastels quite a bit. I discovered that by using those on these Vampirella kits that I produced just recently that I painted, I've got a lot more control with subtlety. Sometimes with the airbrush you'll have to go back and forth trying to get the shadows and the highlights just right. So I do my final, like my red oxide type of thing, using pastels over top of it, and I always seal every layer that I paint, dull coat it, just so that if you make a mistake it's easier to fix. But I use acrylic paints primarily. My airbrush and the paints that I use are Badger products. I've had really good luck with them. And my favorite kind of kits to build obviously are girl kits. Just for the challenge to pull off a really realistic flesh tone and make something pretty out of a pile of plastic parts, basically.
But where did when you were a kid, did it start? As a teenager, adult?
When I was a kid, I used to build car models like crazy. I tried some figure stuff, but I never had any, I didn't know anyone that knew any techniques. You know, it was the testers with the terrible paintbrush trying to paint a figure, and of course you know what they turn out like. So I stuck with car models mostly, and as I didn't do them for quite a while, and then in my early 20s I got the bug again, so then I started to put wires on the engines and, you know, get all detailed and intricate, and picked up a book with techniques, you know, how to do that stuff. And then that kind of got put aside, and I spoke earlier, I met a really good friend of mine a long time ago, and he introduced me to figure modeling. He brought in a Billiken Frankenstein that he had painted into work, and I was just blown away at how it looked. I'd never seen all the shading, the depth of the skin tones, and bringing out all the details by using washes and dry brushing, and, you know, all the techniques that everybody uses now. And I ended up ordering a Billiken Batman, and that was actually the first figure kit that I painted. So that's where it started. And like most people that get into the hobby, I go to a show or order it online and get one a year and paint it, you know, and always wanting more, trying to get into different things. And then as time went on, had the ability to begin to buy more kits and polish my skills and all that stuff. So,
Are you a family man? Do you have kids? And
yes, I'm married, and I have two daughters. They're both they're 18 and 20, and they were raised on Model Mania videos. We used to watch them all the time. They never wanted to watch how to paint. They always wanted to see the beauty shots at the end. And my wife hated the music. That was always funny. But they loved seeing the kits being built, you know, how they looked when they were done.
I have a problem. I have 4 little guys at home, and anytime there's kids over, I got like 50 kids trying to get into my studio. Do you have that problem too? Is it like a...
Well, where my studio's at's down in the basement. My wife hates it to have me take people down through the basement to get there because it's not finished. I mean, my room's all finished, and it's the epitome of a man cave, I guess. I call it the inner sanctum, but I still take people down there all the time to show them what's down there.
I see you like the female figure. Inner Sanctum, tell me a little bit about Inner Sanctum and how it started.
Well, Inner Sanctum started by, I got the name from what I call my studio, and of course I go on online places where there's modeling forums and all that stuff, look at everything that people have. I was always intrigued by how kits are produced. I've got a lot of friends that are kit producers, and it seems like the general mantra of all of them is the reason why I produce kits is because nobody made the one I wanted, or they didn't make the one I wanted the way I wanted to see it made. So one day I was on Facebook, and I was looking at Tony Cipriano's page, and he's a fantastic sculptor, and he had quite a few different Vampirellas that he did. And I've been a Vampirella fan ever since I was a kid. And he had one in particular based on the classic door poster. And I contacted him and asked him, you know, how much would that, because he said that he did it and pitched it to someone to produce it, and they didn't want to use it because it was too vintage or too old style. You know, they wanted to do the Vampirellas in the newer style. So he did it, and it sat there. So I contacted him about purchasing the sculpt because I was interested in producing it. So we worked out a deal where he had the door poster one, and then he also had one based on the San Julian Vampirella poster where she's looking back over her shoulder. So we worked out a deal for 2 kits, and he gave me the option of the San Julian one or to do a totally new one. So I thought, well, it'd be a great opportunity to make the Frazetta based on one of Frazetta's famous Vampirellas. So that's kind of where it started. We started with first the door poster one. It was about 80% done, and we worked really hard on it to make it look the most like the door poster as possible. And that was my first kit that I produced, and I brought that out to Wonderfest 3 years ago and did really well with it. And this one actually came out last year, and I finally got one painted this year. So, like everybody else, you get so busy you don't get a chance to paint your own stuff. But I enjoy the kit producing for the fact that I was able to make the ones that I wanted exactly how I wanted to. Plus, it helps sort of perpetuate the whole flow of sell one to buy one.
Did you ever think you'd be doing this 20, 30 years ago? Is this something, as your kid, what did you aspire to be? Was it a painter? Was it an artist? And how did you get here? Was it just by fate? Like, nobody asked you a question as far as where do you draw your inspiration from? Where do you get your, like, you driving down the block and see a girl walking down the street and go, wow, they inspire me. Where does it come from?
I've always been artistic. Love to draw. In high school, I drew album covers like crazy. I took every art class I could get, and I think when I was a senior I had 3 art classes per semester, and I pretty much had free reign to do whatever I wanted. Basically it was freelance, free time for me to create whatever I wanted to, and that's when I got into sculpting a little bit, and then I went to college for graphic design and photography and worked on my illustration skills at that point. Always loved art, always appreciated it. Loved comic books, graphic novels. That's kind of where the love for Vampirella came, was from the old Warren magazines, and just always have loved art. I never thought I would be a kit producer or a figure modeler or anything like that. It's just a kind of a progression of steps based on people I met, what they liked. I enjoyed what they did, and I gave it a try, and kind of went from there.
I guess in wrapping up, I know we all have futures, but we don't know what the future holds. What's in the future for Inner Sanctum? Where can I see these kits? Where can I buy these kits? Where are they available?
Most of the photographs I have of the kits are on my Facebook page, which I just go with my name, Gordon Oberman, and also I'm on the Clubhouse. I'm in a couple different Facebook groups, so if you search it out, it's pretty easy to find, and then I just sell them direct generally. As far as the future goes, I do want to produce another kit. I'd love to do a Vampirella, but another one, but I can't decide which artist to use, and once I pick the artist, which piece to use.
Joe Jusko.
Yeah, that's one of the ones,
Yeah.
for sure. I'll just have to keep flipping through the pages, and when one jumps out for me, then that's the one I'll pick.